Hi everybody, Marc Summers here, and today I'm going to be talking to the amazing Anthony Melchiorri. We will discuss the ins and outs of hospitality.
I was in the hotel business, now I'm in the business of hotels. Two different lives, right?
Starting as a busboy.
I'm an operator, right? I came up as a general manager, a busboy, then a waiter. So I'm in the hotel business.
And just showing up.
There's a difference between standing up for yourself and showing up for yourself.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to Marc Summers Unwraps. I just want to, there was nobody around when I was looking for these answers, trying to figure out how the hell do I do these shows. Nobody was really doing it. And I always made that conscious decision to say, if I ever get in that position, I want to be able to help others. So generally, when the phone rings, I answer it, and we have I'm meeting somebody tomorrow for breakfast. I have no idea who this person is, but they're coming up to my house, and we're going to breakfast because he found out that I started at the Comedy Store in 1976, and he's doing stand-up now, and he wants to know what it was like back in that period. So he said, do you mind answering those questions? I said, no. I said, but I'm not driving down to L.A. Do you want to come up where I live? And he did. He is. And so tomorrow we're doing that. So I get a lot out of meeting these people because I'm curious as to what their goals are. Hi, everybody. Today we are unwrapping a very good friend of mine. His name is Anthony Melchiorri. You know him from lots of TV, primarily Hotel Impossible. And our producer, Keith, always gets upset with me because we do 10 minutes of the show as people are walking in and you and I are having a conversation. And Keith always says, well, wait a minute. It's kind of the story you know about with me and Robert Irvine about, don't start talking until things are recording. So we're recording right now. How are you?
Great, man. It's so amazing to be here. And thank you for inviting me. And I just wish I saw you more.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Unfortunately, we're on different coasts. So I want to talk about your life, your career. Nobody wakes up and becomes the go-to expert when it comes to hospitality. There's a long process. And I always think of two people. One name, as we were discussing prior to recording here, is Peter Greenberg, who does different stuff than you. He's more about airlines, and you have a focus on hotels. That seems to be your expertise. I know you do other stuff, but if I'm thinking about hotels or what happens within a hotel, you're the go-to guy.
Yeah, Peter Greenberg's probably the smartest person in travel. He's a genius of what he does. I'm an operator, right? I came up as a general manager, a busboy, then a waiter. So I'm in the hotel business. As I get older, I then became in development and turning around hotels, but really I'm a busboy. That's what I am. And
you're a busboy.
At first I was in where they say I was in the hotel business. Now I'm in the business of hotels. Two different lives, right? So, but
tell me the difference.
Being in the hotel business is you're working, whether general manager, even as an asset manager, you're kind of worried about the cash flow. You're worried about the service. You're worried about keeping the hotel at a high standard. When you're in the other side of the business, in the development of it, buying the hotels, consulting on the hotels, that's a different world and a different brain. You have to have two different brains. When I was an asset manager, probably 25 years into my career, I realized emotionally the building doesn't mean as much because the building is an asset that the people I work for are going to sell it one day. So we're trying to squeeze as much money, as much profit out of the hotel so when they sell it, they can get as much money back. When you're running a hotel, you fall in love with it. It's like a person, a woman. It's like a relationship. Like the building, if you say anything about the building or the hotel, you take it personally. As an asset manager or as a developer, it's an asset. So completely two different minds. And it was hard for me to be on this side where emotionally disconnected from the operation. I'm an operations guy.
You're in town for a convention. Tell me what this is and what you're doing here.
Well, the convention I'm here for is called AAHOA. AAHOA is the Asian American Hotel Association. And believe it or not, 80% of all hotels in America are owned by the Indian community. For the country of India.
And the family name is?
Patel.
And they own 80%?
Not all Patels, but the Indian community owns 80% and 60% of all hotels in development. And when it first started years ago, they weren't represented and they felt that they were being discriminated against. So they pulled their voices together. They started the association 35 years ago, and they're probably, arguably, the most important, strongest association, one of the most important associations in the business. So they all came together. They asked me, I should have an Indian citizenship at this point. I've done so many things for them. So there was 4 or 5 brands that came, and I moderated a panel. But the funniest thing is when you're walking through the AAHOA conference, I always say it's like Jerry Lewis in France. Anthony Melchiorri at the AAHOA conference is like Jerry Lewis in France. And you know what I mean by that.
I know exactly what you mean, because Jerry was an icon in France. A lot of people in this country don't quite understand that, but he used to say, because I knew him a bit, if he just wanted a little pick-me-up, he would fly over there, and he could walk the streets, and people would go nuts.
That's how I felt coming out of my hotel today.
Really? And so the 2 panels you led were about what?
Just what's going on in the industry. What are the things that we're surprised about that stuck? Like, I'll give you an example. Housekeeping. During the pandemic, there was no housekeeping. So now when you go to a nice hotel, are you going to have housekeeping or not?
I called you the other day about this because I read that the more, I guess, middle-of-the-road places are only going to clean your room if you ask them to do it.
Right, absolutely. And that's going to stick. And hate to tell you this, but even in the fancy hotels.
So if I go to a Four Seasons, they're not going to clean my room every day?
They will, unless you ask them not to clean your room. But there's some hotels, not Four Seasons specifically, because that's like 5-star hotel, it's high end. But if a 4-star hotel, they'll ask you at the front desk, would you like your room cleaned? They'll clean it, but they'll ask if you want it cleaned.
I just stayed in a place in Maine, where was I? Bangor, Maine.
Bangor, Maine. I did a show there.
Did you really?
Uh-huh.
And I had to go get my own towels fresh every day.
Where'd you stay? Liberty Inn?
No, it was at more of an Airbnb-ish kind of place. It was interesting. It was odd, and they could be so much better. But, I call you and you call me about things, and let's talk a little bit about that. I'm going off my paper here because I have so many things I want to get to, and I'll get to them in a minute. But we had a discussion once, and I called you about towels hanging over a toilet, okay? And nothing disgusts me more. And I always go down to the front desk and say, can I have a conversation with you? Because when you think about that, you flush a toilet, all that spray goes up and destroys your towels. What moron in the hotel industry decided that was the best place for these things to be?
Well, I don't know what moron did it, but let me tell you that I apparently was a moron too, because let's tell the story. Let's tell the backstory of that.
Okay.
One day we were talking,
and
he goes, I got a hotel. You said, I got a hotel for you. You never heard of it. You probably, never even went by it, but it's on 79th and Amsterdam Avenue. And I love it. When I was working with ABC put me up there all the time. It's my favorite hotel in the world. It's called the Lucerne Hotel. Yep. And I start laughing because they said, oh, you mean the first hotel I've ever been general manager of? I was running the hotel. Matter of fact, not only was I running the hotel, I signed the contract with my director of sales, Laura Biardi, for ABC. So we brought you there, and then you said, what moron hangs towels over the rack? And I said, you know what? As OCD as I am and as intense as I am about cleanliness, I never thought about it.
Yeah. It makes me sick. And I had a fight with, there's a hotel that went in where the Four Seasons used to be in Philly, because when we were doing Double Dare, I lived at the Four Seasons for, 3-4 years, and it was taken over, and they changed the restrooms, the bathrooms, and they literally have an area with towels sitting right next to the toilet. And they just didn't get it. And I just, I said, do me a favor, just give me my own towels. I'll put them where I want. And maybe I'm nuts. I don't know. But I mean,
no, it's disgusting.
It is, right?
Once you said it, I was like, oh my God, it's disgusting. Mark Summers told me about the hotel business. No, and one of the reasons I think we're friends is because you love the industry as much as I do. You love staying in great hotels.
I do. I am getting ready to go to Morocco, and I can't wait. We're staying at these crazy places. And I get off on that. People say to me, why do you spend so much money on those places? And it's like when you're on vacation, even when I'm just traveling, doing, a personal appearance, you feel more comfortable. If I'm looking around, I always tell the story. I was hosting Price is Right Live in Kansas City, and everybody knows I have OCD. So the talent before me called me up and said, Mark, I understand you're coming in to do a month at the casino. Yeah. Well, they're not putting us up at the casino. They're putting us at, and I won't mention the hotel because we'll get sued. And he said, you're going to have the worst time ever. And I said, why? And he said, let me describe it. It looks like somebody put a gun to their head, committed suicide, and they never cleaned it. Okay.
Oh my God.
And I said, it's that bad? And he said, yeah, it's that bad. So I get there, and it was worse than he
You
described.
didn't change the
Well,
reservation?
I couldn't because I was working for the company that was doing Price is Right Live, and they wouldn't change it because that's where their deal was. So I called up housekeeping, and I said, I need one person. I'm going to be here for a month. I need her to work with me. So she came up and said, okay, take off the bedspreads, get rid of those rugs by the toilets, do this and that. There was stuff all over the walls. I said, you need to clean those walls. And I paid her for doing all this stuff. And I said, here's what I need for the next month. And I will compensate you on a daily basis to keep this place the way I want it. And she did it. But after 3 weeks, I couldn't take it anymore. And I paid for my own and moved out because it just stresses me out. I can't. That's why people call me up and say, will you stay at an Airbnb? Not in a million years. I don't want to stay in somebody's house that I don't know what the hell's been going on in there. Okay.
But, there was a brand and their tagline was, if you're comfortable, you can do anything. And I think that's the greatest brand tagline I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Because it's true. I can't fly. Somebody just asked me, middle seat.
Never.
On a plane in economy, and you stay in a 2-star hotel or first class. First class and you stay in a 2-star hotel, or middle seat in economy and you stay in a 5-star hotel. I said, I'll stay in a 2-star hotel before I sit in the middle seat. And because if I'm not comfortable, I can't sit in the middle seat. I'll lose my mind. You think I'm 6'3", I'm only 5'7". But I just can't do it. And it's true. Comfortable, whether what I'm wearing now or what I drive Volvos. They're very comfortable. I feel safe. I have to fly in first class. I get upgraded a lot. I have Delta Diamond. I just have to be comfortable. Yeah. And that's what the hotel business is about. The hotel business is about taking your reality, whatever your reality is, whether it's high-level reality, whether you live in a beautiful home like you do, travel first-class hotels like you do, or it's someone that lives in Kansas City, lives on a farm and has a nice life, but they're comfortable. You have to make people comfortable.
Yeah.
And that's the number one priority of the industry, is to make people comfortable.
It is.
And you can't make people comfortable if they're paying attention to dirty walls, or they're paying attention to things that skeeve them out, or things that worry them. You have to make and I always say, I don't run a hotel for you. I run a hotel for everyone. So if I have it at the highest level possible, then everyone will be comfortable. The people that don't notice the thing that I made somebody or I scrubbed that no one would see except someone like you or me, or just having a little bit more comfortable sheets or towels. If you elevate the hotel, whether it's a 3-star hotel or a 5-star hotel, if you elevate the hotel to where, and it doesn't have to be expensive, to where everything is right, then everyone's going to be comfortable.
Worst night of my life. I'm doing stand-up comedy. It's my first tour. I'm touring with a friend of mine, Ellis Levinson. And he said, you're probably not going to be comfortable in the hotel that they're going to put us at. He said, Wood Hotel. And he goes, it doesn't make a difference. They always put us in the worst places. So it's in New Orleans. We're playing Tulane University. And for 2 nights, all we did is throw our shoes at cockroaches running up the wall. Okay? 2 nights. I just leave for 48 hours. And everybody said, well, that's what you get in New Orleans. I don't care where you're going. You're going to find cockroaches. Well, apparently they were having a convention at my hotel, and the walls were
The cockroaches were having a convention?
No question. And, literally throwing shoes all night at cockroaches and missing half the time. And the other ones would drop and they would be dead. And by the time it was over with, the wall was just smeared. And I always wondered, if I came back the next day, would they have cleaned that wall, or was it going
not properly?
Yeah, I'm sure they wouldn't have.
Not properly.
So that was the early, the formative years of what I was doing, and that's why my agent always said, sometimes they say, I can't believe they're paying us this much money to do it. He goes, they're not paying you for what you're doing today. It's all the time you put in to get to that point, because we stayed in hotels with cockroaches. It's just what you do to get, from point A to point B. We're going to come back to hospitality in a second. But what you never talk about is your background, okay? Mm-hmm. You produced a movie called Wise Gal.
Yes, I did.
It was about your mom.
Yes.
Oh, she's not your mom?
Yeah, no, she is my mom.
Okay. Tell everybody this story. I find it fascinating.
Well, I don't ever talk about this.
I
So
know.
I'm only talking about this because you put me on the spot, but I never talk about this. Basically, and I won't get into the details of the story. You have to go watch it. It's called Wise Gal. My dad died when I was 2 years old, and it talks about the things my mother had to do as I was growing up. So I felt that I needed to do a story because when my dad died and my mom had to do what she had to do to make a living, I felt that I needed to get out of me. I needed to get out of me that, even though my mom maybe was hanging out with the wrong people and doing the wrong things, she was amazing and she kept us out of trouble. So instead of going to therapy, I thought, we'd do the movie. And we collaborated, and I was very, very fortunate to know a man named Leo Rossi and Lynn Rossi, and they helped me get the movie made, and it was on Lifetime, and it was a very successful movie. Alyssa Milano played my mom, and James Caan played someone that she knew, and I'm actually in the movie a little bit, and it was something that was really more a therapy session than it was, because I wanted to show that my mom and my dad were good people.
Oh, that's not the question. But the thing you're skirting is she was associated in some form with.
Yeah, I'm skirting it on purpose because I don't really talk about it.
Yeah, I know. But you're on my show, so we're going to talk about it.
Okay.
And so she was a mob person, would you say?
She ran numbers for the mafia. She wasn't a mob person, but she ran numbers from, in the movie, it's Canada. Okay, so running it from Canada to New York. And the reason we did that, they did that, Joe Pistone, the real Donnie Brasco, you should have him on your podcast.
Yeah.
And he's here in L.A. He's a very good friend of mine. And, actually, no, he's in Jersey and sometimes L.A. But anyway, so I guess there was a budget issue. And he said, we cannot show, because basically she ran numbers from Vegas to New York. So we can't really show Vegas in the 70s because it would cost too much money. So during that period, in the 80s, I guess, they were running, not my mother, but people were doing things on boats in Canada, doing casinos, and they would run the money back to New York. So he says, let's do it on a boat. So in the movie, it's on a boat, but in reality, it was Vegas to New York.
So was she traveling a lot?
She was traveling from time to time. She would go, as I understand it, it's in the movie. I didn't write this storyline. This came from the writer and my mother, that she would take the VIG. You know what the VIG is?
No, I'll explain to the people what it is.
Okay, it's the interest rate.
Right.
So whatever belonged back to the guys in New York, she would take that money and she would bring it to New York. And in the movie, it's strapped to her body. Nowadays, you can't get away with that.
No, it's a whole different thing.
Right.
And so how many kids?
3.
3. So when she was traveling, running around, doing all this stuff, you guys were living where?
Well, she was home a lot.
Yeah.
But we lived in New York. We lived in Brooklyn. She was home a lot. But when she traveled, we would stay with Darcy, our babysitter, or my grandmother. Now, if you want to do a movie, we'd have to do a movie about my grandmother.
Really?
Grandma Lucy was like, she was the funniest person ever. But I think she started having Alzheimer's or dementia early on. And she was just hysterical. She was one of my favorite people.
What did your mom tell you she was doing when she left the house?
We
Did
never
you guys
talked
know?
about it. We never talked about it. Well, when I went to my mom and said, hey, Mom, I want to do a story about your life, my mom said, what the F do you know about my life? And I wanted to call it Peephole or Keyhole, where I saw everything through a keyhole. Matter of fact, I have the first treatment. It's called Keyhole. And she goes, and so she worked with the writer. I never met the writer. She worked with the writer, and they basically wrote the story.
So she was around and sort of signed off on all.
She signed off on it in the beginning. She wasn't so sure about it, and then she signed off on it. And as you know, on movies like that, you don't make a lot of money.
No.
So she did make money for helping with the outline and the script and everything. But
what did you think of the end result?
She never said she didn't like it. That's how I'll answer that question.
Okay. She's still around?
No, she passed away probably 7 years ago.
Okay.
About actually 9 years ago.
So how long did she do that?
Do what?
To work with her friends?
Well, it's a long time. That period, like as far as going back and forth to Vegas, was probably just a very short period of time, maybe a few years, 4 or 5 years.
But they say when you want to get out, sometimes those folks won't let you out.
Well, again, there's associates, people who kind of work with the mafia, and there's people that are in. She was never in. She worked and she helped.
Right.
Right. So, Joe Pistone, I won't tell you the line my mother said because I'll tell you off air. But Joe Pistone, the real Donnie Brasco, was when they first met. Leo Rossi, Donnie Brasco met my mother in a very nice hotel in New York City. I was not in the room. I wasn't allowed to be in the room. I have the tapes because I was allowed to tape it.
Why weren't you allowed to be in the room?
Because my mom didn't want me to know anything.
Really?
So I have the tapes. I literally have the tapes in my house. And Joe Pistone comes to my office. I was working at the Lucerne Hotel, 79th in Amsterdam. And he said, I've met kings, I've met queens, I've met actors, I've met them all. I met all the mafia people, I met them all. I never met that person.
Really?
He goes, you got a movie. And he's helped Leo and Lynn, and they helped us get the movie.
Amazing. That is an amazing story. So, what age and what motivated you to go into the Air Force?
In the 80s, in Brooklyn, not without a dad, my mom did everything she could. She was a good mom. She, we had a nice house, clean house, did everything she can, but had no direction. And we didn't have any money for me to really do anything. So in my book, I have a book coming out, and in the book, it talks about, for a moment, I was really in a bad shape. I was thinking about, the highest building I can find to jump off of.
Why?
I don't know. I guess growing up
No direction,
without a dad,
no passion.
No, I had a lot of passion. I think I came out with passion, but I had no idea what to be passionate about.
Okay, well, what does that mean? Because I came out of the womb saying I want to be on television. You said you had passion.
I was just I always wanted to know what was going on. I always if I'm in the room and you're talking, what are you talking about?
But it's not like you said, I want to be a this or that.
No.
You had no idea what you wanted to do.
Once we went to Florida, I was at this hotel, and I go, I guess I'm going to do a hotel business, because everybody was going to be a cop, a fireman, police officer, whatever.
Yeah.
Doctor, nurse. And I was like, I guess I want to be in the hotel business. And that was it. And then
What age was that?
9.
Really?
Yeah. And I did it just simply because I was sick and tired of when people asked me, what you want to do when you grow up? I had nothing to do. I said, the hotel business. I knew nothing about the hotel business. I went in the Air Force. When I was in the Air Force, I said, I guess I got to go start working in the hotel business. So my first job was at Overland Park, Kansas City.
Hold on. How long were you in the Air Force?
Almost 5 years.
And what was your job?
Protocol officer.
Which meant what?
I poured coffee for generals.
Seriously?
It's very dangerous because that coffee is very hot. I was at the Stealth Bomber Base, Whiteman Air Force Base, and I would be able to sit in these meetings that were top secret or secret, and I would pour coffee. So when people said, what did you do? I said, I worked on the stealth program. And they go, what did you do? I said, I had the most dangerous job in the Air Force. And they go, you flew the plane? I said, no, I poured the coffee. Shit's hot. That coffee's hot. So basically I went as administrator, because when I took the test, I failed everything except administrator. Apparently I got the highest score you can get with being able to organize things and being able to put things in order and figure things out. So they made me an administrator. Again, in the book, I talk about, I'm in typing class. So I'm at Keesler Air Force Base. After basic training, I go to Keesler Air Force Base.
Which is where?
It's in Mississippi, Biloxi, Mississippi. So I'm in administrative school. And at the time in 1986, you were learning how to type on a typewriter. So I was doing well. I was typing 65, 75, 85 words a minute. And I was passing all the tests. I was the second in the class. I'm killing it. It was 6 weeks of basic training, 6 weeks of tech school. And this girl was flirting with me, so I was flirting with her. And apparently it was the final. And I didn't realize it was the final. So I'm whatever, goofing off, making her laugh. And I take the final. I fail. The proctor comes over and said, she was a sweet Southern woman. She says, honey, you got to do the class again. I go, what? She goes, you failed the final. You have to do the class again. So now, like an idiot, I'm sitting in my seat waiting for the other class to come in to take the final again.
Right.
She goes, no, honey.
You got to start from the beginning?
You got to start again.
Oh, my.
I had to do typing class 6 weeks over
as
people I knew were, it was a air traffic controller base. They were training air traffic controllers. People were jumping out of planes, flying in planes. Here I am. I can't get out of effing tech school for typing. So I talk about in the book that taught me always be prepared and always pay attention.
It's funny. I wanted to join the Navy, so I did. I got out of high school. All I wanted to do was work in TV, and I thought I was going into Armed Forces Radio and Television. And I took a test, and I rated in the lower 5% of the nation in map reading. Okay, they said they had never seen a score this low in their entire lives. Okay, and so I literally had to talk the Navy into letting me go in. All right, now as I got in, my knees blew out, and I was in and out of the Navy in 28 days. I didn't get
really.
That I'll tell you. There's a much longer story about it, but literally, I was in the Navy for 28 days, and I came back, worked at a bank, and how the hell do you get into TV from working at a bank? That's the question I have from you. So you have OCD, and you have a military background. And not that I'm ever going to compare you with Robert Irvine, but I worked with Irvine all those years. The military aspect of your life, I think contributes a lot to your success. Would you agree to that?
Yes. When people ask me that question, that's what I said. I said my mother contributes to my success because my mother had higher standards for organization and cleanliness and paying attention than the military. And
Really?
My mom was, this is a true story. I was in my dorm maybe a couple months into being in the Air Force, and I saw dust on my bookshelf. I didn't know what it was. I'm not kidding. It's not
Seriously?
a joke. I didn't know what dust was. I never saw dust. I swear to God, I never saw dust.
You grew up at my house.
Yeah, I never saw dust. Plastic, couches, all that stuff. I never saw dust. So and I always dressed okay, and my mother always dressed beautifully. She always had a great aesthetic. So I just was always kind of prepared, always trying to be the best I could, even though I was insecure and out of my mind and didn't know what the hell I wanted to do. But when I got in the military, the Air Force, all the leaders I worked for. I worked for General Kenny. He eventually became a general. Colonel Wagner. And then I was attached to the Army base for 6 months before I got out. And Colonel Hallams. Every one of these guys were above reproach. Colonel Hallams became director of leadership at West Point. General Kenny became in charge of nuclear insurance. And Colonel Wagner said these words to me, and he's a good friend of mine to this day. And he's probably like 80-something years old, flew airplanes in Vietnam, and he was my boss at one of my jobs in the Air Force. And he calls me in his office, and he said, everybody called me Tony. He goes, Tony, sit down. I said, yes, sir. He goes, you are not going to have a family. You're not going to have children. I was like, excuse me? He goes, you're the best airman I've ever had. Straight up, best airman I've ever had. And I've been doing this a long time. He goes, but you're insane and you're obsessed and you're never going to be home and you're going to not have a family. Changed my life. I was like, okay. And I took the note. And I just thanked him probably 4 months ago. I was on a call with him. And I thanked him for that advice.
He thought you couldn't function in a world that wasn't perfect?
No, not that perfect. I thought I was the most important person in the military.
Really?
I had Master Sergeant Young come to me one day, and he puts his foot on my desk, and he goes, Tony, what do you do? And he knows what I do because I was his direct report, or second direct report. I worked for a Master Sergeant, and he said, you're better than all your bosses that you've worked for. You're great at what you do. That's why you get all these awards, and that's why you have all these reviews. He said, but we fly planes. He goes, we shoot missiles. We have a lot of stuff we do in the military. You are not the most important person in the military. He goes, you're going to get court-martialed or thrown out if you don't calm down a little bit.
Really?
I was very respectful, but like if you were my boss, nowadays, like when I was in the Air Force, if you were my boss, I'd run right over you. And if I get fired, I get fired. But I'm running right over you because I'm getting my job done. And if you fire me, go fire me. And in the book, I talk about twice that I got fired 2 years later because I ran over people. And he said, if you run over people, you're going to be done. And so I just backed up and respected the people I worked with and just kind of took it. But I didn't understand that you're leaving at 5 o'clock and we still have reports to do. Why don't we just do them and go home? Yeah. And I was going to school at night on a military base and working on the weekends. So I'm in the Air Force working for the colonel as a protocol officer. It's a very high, visual job. Everybody's watching you. I'm going to school at night. I get my 4-year bachelor's degree in 3.5 years at night. And I'm working on the weekends at Overland Park, Kansas Embassy Suites.
And so, as my dad would say, stick a broom up your ass and you'll sweep the floor as well. And so
my mother said the same thing.
We come from the same cloth. And you and I function on that sort of level. My favorite story is I had this crazy young girl who had just graduated from college looking for a job. And I said, first of all, she puts her feet on my desk. First thing she does is put her feet on my desk, okay? And I said, what do you want to do? I was exec producing a game show at the time. And she said, I want to be a producer. And I said, what does a producer do? And she said, they produce, okay? I said, well, explain what that means to me. And she said, well, first of all, you need to know something. And I said, what's that? She says, I don't do weekends. Okay. And I said, get your feet off my desk and go get a job in the insurance business. You ain't made out for television. Okay. And so the fact that people, in some ways she was kind of doing you in her own form or fashion. And maybe she thought by acting out, I would be impressed. I threw her out of the office. But, there's something to be said by people who are so sure of themselves that they get to a point where people buy into it and they become successful. Would you agree or disagree?
Well, make no mistake. I was insecure and I wasn't rude. I wasn't putting my foot on people's desks. I was like, yes, sir, no, sir, I don't know, sir, yes, sir, whatever you want me to do.
You were insecure?
Very insecure.
Really?
I almost killed myself at 18 jumping off a building. That's probably insecure as you can get.
Yeah.
Tell
me about that story. How'd you
I was going through some stuff. I didn't have any direction. I didn't have a dad, and I just was lost. That's why I joined the military. The military saved my life.
Were you trying to commit suicide?
I thought about it. I never had the balls to go up to the building, but I looked at the building and I thought about it a couple of times. And I was just like, I don't know what I want to do. And one day I'm on Flatbush Avenue, Junction in New York, on Notion Avenue in Flatbush, and I saw an Air Force recruiter's office, walked in and changed my life.
So how do you go from the Air Force to Overland, Kansas?
Okay. So but let me just kind of backtrack and say, if I'm in a job, I'm very respectful. If you were my boss, you owe me the same respect. And that's why I call the book Show Up, not Stand Up. There's a difference between standing up for yourself and showing up for yourself. I did a little bit too much standing up in the beginning with some of my bosses. And then I realized longer in my career that showing up means being quiet, go sitting in the corner, and eventually everything will pay off. So I explained that. But I wasn't this crazy person that would go in and put my feet on somebody's desk or show up late or be disrespectful. But if I'm in charge of something, if you put me in charge of something, I'm going to give you what you want. And if I have to tell you, no, Mark, you asked me to do this. This is what I think's best. And you go, no, Anthony, this is what's best. It's like, can we agree to disagree? And if you say, no, we can't agree to disagree. You got to do what I told you to do. Yes, sir. No, sir. I'll do it. Done.
But your high expectations of your own self, I'm going to assume you think other people should work in the same form and fashion, correct?
Interesting. No.
No.
This is what I think.
Really?
I talk about the word done. This is what I talk about. And the word done to me is, if you ask me a question, say, hey, Anthony, can you do this for me at 7:00, in Los Angeles? And if I say done, don't ask me another question.
Yeah.
Don't ask me what time you're going to get there. Don't tell me how you're going to. It's done, Mark. Don't say, well, make sure it's done. So as long as, if you're a quiet person or you're a methodical person or you're a person that's, out of your mind and you're enthusiastic, just tell me what you're going to do. And I don't care which style you do it. So no, I don't need everybody to work the way I work. I don't need everybody to be as loud or as quiet as I can be.
Do you trust people?
I trust people too quick, and it takes me too long to get away from them. As I'm getting older, I don't really trust many people.
You do not.
But growing up, I
trusted too many people.
I either don't trust you immediately or I trust you immediately. Now I'm learning kind of calm down a little bit.
Okay. Now, so first job in the hotel business, what was the company you were working with?
I was on base and I said, let me go fight, because when I leave the Air Force, I need a career.
Yeah.
So Jeff Hoover, who was a friend of mine, had a car. And he goes, let's drive up to Overland Park, Kansas, and there's a lot of hotels there. I go, I don't know what that is, and okay. So he goes and starts looking around for jobs for me, and I go looking around in the same area. There's hotels everywhere. And I walk into Embassy Suites. This is a funny story. I walk into Embassy Suites, and there's a gentleman named Bob Legler. He is he's like the director of operations. And I walk in, and Bob, now I spent a long time trying to find the right suit and the right tie. I walk in, and he fell in love with my tie. And he goes, I love your tie. I said, thank you very much. It's very colorful. And I said, thank you very much. He sat me down on a chair, like a bar chair, and him and I just spoke. And I got the job on the spot.
And what was the job?
Front desk, night auditor.
What does that mean?
That means you're the front desk clerk at night, and you're the person that makes sure everything balances. So I would drive.
No experience in that world, right?
Zero. But he liked my tie. And if you know Bob was a model.
Yeah.
And if you know Bob, having the right tie
was important.
Got me my job.
So you learned on the spot.
On the spot. But I was already, because my mom was such a great dresser, I always understood present yourself well.
Yeah. Well, especially in the hospitality business.
Yeah.
Back then. What year was this?
1986.
Okay. So, year I started Double Dare. How weird.
What's that?
That was the year we started Double Dare. It's just
wow.
so weird to me. And the fact we'll talk about that you actually ran the Nickelodeon hotel. But so you've got this job. You have no idea basically what you're going to do, but you learn while doing.
Absolutely.
How long were you there?
I was there almost my whole career. No, not my almost my whole career. My whole 4 years in the Air Force, and I would drive up on a Friday afternoon, and I would stay in the hotel, and I'd leave Sunday night.
Oh, so you did weekends only?
I did weekends only overnight, and then they asked me to take over the breakfast area, and this is the first thing. Like, this is when I started to realize you'll do a little more, you go a lot further. There was a line, those breakfast lines, especially Embassy Suites, very long. And
Worst food ever.
My first general manager, she was wonderful, absolutely wonderful. And she said, hey, figure out how we can do this better. So all I did was set up another buffet line, and boom, I was a genius. So it was a great, great experience. And I stayed a few months later after I left the Air Force. I did a little bit more training. And then, you want another story? I got a really good story.
Yeah.
I was in Honduras, and Colonel Kenning asked me to stay in the military, go to officer training school, take the test. I wanted to become an officer.
Really?
And if I became an officer, my idea was to become a general. So I knew I probably wouldn't do good on the standardized test. I knew it. So I took the test, and he says, listen, I'm going to call my friends at Randolph Air Force Base. We're going to put you on TDY, which is temporary duty assignment. Because I had to wait a few months to get my results, and I was about to leave the military, and the only way to stay was to either re-up for 4 years,
oh my,
or for him to send me on TDY. So he sent me on a temporary duty assignment to Soto Cano Air Base in Honduras. MASH. If you ever saw MASH, it's the MASH show. I worked for the colonel. That's another funny story. But I called. When I was in Honduras, there was a hotel, Embassy Suites, opening in Times Square. And I had heard that before I went to Honduras. So I would call once a week. So, 1986 or 1990 at the time, 1989, what it cost to call, and you're using quarters
Had to be
from
insane.
Honduras?
Yeah.
It's like $18, $19. I was making $18, $19 a year. And so finally, after like the 8th call, the secretary would answer the phone, and I go, can I speak to the general manager? His name was Drew Schlesinger. And she said, this is Anthony? I said, yeah. I go, just tell me, is there a job available for me or not? I want to be a front desk clerk. Is there a job? And she said, he's going to call you. I said, you can't call me. We do this every time. It's like the 9th time. I call you. You tell me you're going to call me back. You can't call me back. There was no emails at the time. She says, hold on. Now she's in a huff. I guess she looked at my resume. She sees my last name, Anthony Melchiorri. She goes, do you have a brother named Angelo? I said, I do. She goes, does your brother Angelo do construction? I said, he does. She goes, I think your brother is renovating my house, my father's house. And she described him, that's my brother Angelo.
Unbelievable.
She goes, he's been living basically in our house, renovating our house for us. She gets Drew on the line. Drew answers the phone, and he goes, you're a pain in the ass, I hear. You call every week. I go, hey, I just want a job. He goes, you want to be a night manager? I go, yeah, of course I want to be a night manager. You think you can handle this? Of course I can handle it. No idea what the hell that means.
Right.
He hires me as the night manager on the spot from Honduras. I show up.
On the phone.
It was still in construction when I finally get there. It was in August of 1990 in a brand new, beautiful suit, pre-construction. He's walking down the hallway in his, construction boots, his jeans, and a shirt. And he just looks at me, and I go, hi, I'm Anthony. And he goes, asshole. And he kept walking right past me because I had a suit on. But I learned a lot from him. And
So at that point, when you got the job, you quit the idea of going on in the Air Force?
I knew I failed the test. I knew I didn't do well on the test. So it wasn't that I quit. I just knew I wasn't going to make it.
So you made that jump, and the guy who was putting you on that temporary duty, was he upset?
No, because it didn't work out.
I don't know if I ever told you this story. So I put myself through college working for Sheraton when it was the major hotel in Boston. Okay, so I started off doing reservations on weekends, answering the phone. Back in the day, this is 1972-ish. Just taking reservations. You're coming into Boston. What day? Yeah, well, like you can get a queen. You can, So I did that for 8 hours a day. Then they started to sneak me into the front desk area, and my next job was there were 1,000 rooms. Each room had 3 keys, and for 8 hours a day, I sorted keys. That's all I did. $65 a week, I sorted keys. Made me insane. I eventually worked my way up to the front desk. Why? Because I was Mr. Personality, and especially when there were celebrities, and other than the Ritz-Carlton at the time, it was the hotel. So we had everybody there, and I made a deal. I would go through the portfolios in the morning, and if I saw a celebrity, I would say to everybody, when Steve Allen comes in, he's mine, okay? Whoever it was, mine, all right? And so I, for about a year, did that. And I hadn't been home for over a year. So I said to David Samadny, our GM, who was a guy who I think was Scottish. He was a ball buster, okay? He was like you. He's a great manager, but he didn't take any shit from anybody, and especially guys like me. So I said to him, Mr. Samadny, I'd like to take a week and go back to Indianapolis. Can I do that? He said, yeah, sure. So I was having such a good time. Now, keep in mind, I'm maybe 19 years old or something, 20. I decided to stay an extra week in Indianapolis, and I never called the hotel and never called David to say, I'm staying an extra week, okay?
Oh, you're done.
And so you know the story. I walk in a week later to the hotel, and Samadny looks at me and goes, what the hell are you doing here? And I said, I just want to see what hours I have. What hours you have? You have 0 hours, okay? And he just screams at me. And to this day, I've tracked him down. He will not respond to me on an email.
To this day?
To this day. He won't talk to me because I was such an amateur. And, I didn't get the business world that if you decide to go somewhere for an extra week and don't sign in and tell your boss, that's a no-no and you're going to get fired. So I learned a valuable lesson. To this, I still try to get in touch with this. He will not respond to me in any way.
Even though you're this guy now.
He doesn't care.
I was mentoring a kid that came to me at this in Vegas just a couple weeks ago to do, I was handing out an award, and he's a young kid, he's in the hotel business, got him involved. Anyway, brought him out to Forbes event. He met everyone. He's now working at the Pierre.
Oh, nice.
Because he met somebody at the Forbes event, and now he works at the Pierre. But that day, he's working at the Hard Rock. We get back, and he said, I have to work at 3 o'clock when I'm calling sick because we took a red eye in. And I go, are you sick? He goes, no. You feel all right? He goes, yeah, but, I took a red eye. I'm tired. I'm not going to call in. I said, you took 3 days off in a row, and you have to be in at 3 o'clock. You're going to work. You're not calling in sick because you took a friggin' red eye.
Yeah.
They know you already took time off. You're all over the internet with me on LinkedIn. They know you had a good time.
Yeah.
You're not calling in sick. And he didn't call in sick. But sometimes you got to teach people these lessons.
Well, you do. So you're at the Embassy Suites for how long?
I was there the whole time I was in the military, so about 3.5 years, 3 years.
And the one in New York, how long were you there?
I was there 10 months. You want to know why?
Why?
Because I won't say his name because I think he's still alive. The general manager came to me. I'm walking in the lobby, and he came to me and he goes, hey, I want to make you director of front office operations. I said, thank you very much. He goes, we're going to probably start in a couple of weeks. I said, thank you. So now I'm excited. I was a night manager, night auditor, and now I'm going to run the front desk, pretty quick, maybe I was there 5-6 months. So it's a couple of weeks and I'm about to go. So now we have probably like 30 people at the front desk. We have bellman, doorman, front desk people. Very nicely in the lobby, I said, sir, can I talk to you for a second? I said, I was just wondering, am I going to have a desk and is there a raise with this? Not like nasty, just like if there's no raise, I'm still taking the job. But yeah. I just need to know. I need to understand. And he said, you are the most ungrateful effing person. How dare you ask me that? You should be grateful that you got the job. Okay. Oh, okay. Didn't say nothing. I went home, started looking in the New York Times classified section for a job. I always wanted to work at the Plaza. Took me a couple weeks, maybe a couple months, I don't remember. I went for the interview, night manager at the Plaza Hotel. That was my dream, to work at the Plaza. I went very professionally, never said a word to him. I made sure the place he cursed me out was the exact place I gave him my resignation.
And you said to him, sir, I've got another job. See ya.
I walked right over to him and I said, sir, and as he saw me go like this, he knew what I was going to do. I'm just going to hand him my resignation. Thank you very much for the opportunity. He walked past me, never said anything. So I'm 2 months later at the Plaza. I'm in my tuxedo because at the time we wore tuxedos. And he passed me by and he looked me in the eye and I looked him in the eye. And he knew what I said under my breath. And that was the last time I saw him.
Oh, my.
And it's like, so that was the kind of time where I showed up for myself. I didn't stand up for myself where I could have. And I just like, you know what? I'm better than this. I don't need him to. How dare you curse me out?
Was the Plaza everything you hoped it was going to be?
We call it the Plaza for a reason.
I never knew that.
Yeah, they call it the Plaza for a reason because it's insane. But again, I'm a worker. So I was working really, really hard. And I met everybody you could imagine.
Yeah. Let's talk. We're going to get to your book, but how did the whole TV thing? You and I met, I think you called me. I'm trying to remember this thing.
No, sorry, Mark, but I have people. No. I had no people. Leo Rossi's son was an agent, And when they were shopping the idea of the show, me and Leo
Hotel
and Lynn,
Impossible.
Hotel Impossible, somehow somebody got in touch with you and they said, Mark Summers wants to meet you at the Algonquin to talk about the show. And of course, it's the biggest meeting of my life at that point.
You selected the Algonquin.
Maybe.
You did, because I would have never gone to a meeting there.
Maybe.
I always used to go to a coffee shop at 56th and 7th. But
Probably.
Yeah, and so we're supposed to meet at 10 o'clock.
Yes.
And I always show up, or early is on time is late is, forget about it. And I thought you were going to beat me, but I beat you.
You beat me because you were there. I thought it was 8 o'clock.
Was it 8?
And whatever. But you were there an hour early because you
Yes.
said 7 o'clock. And I was there 20 minutes early. So today, how early was I?
You were an hour early.
Who opened the door for you when you walked in?
You opened the door for me. That's
I
hysterical.
learned once. I don't have to do it again. I've never, ever been
It's
somewhere
the first time you
late.
Yeah, that's hysterical.
Yeah.
So, and we talked about, when you always talk about the one that got away, and your show, which is the one I wanted to produce, didn't work out due to stupid business things. Don't need to go into. But you had this tremendous run. You also did a couple other shows.
Well, hold on.
Yeah.
I'm not letting you off the hook because
Yeah.
I told you this once because you invited me to your movie premiere, your documentary that you did.
Yeah.
And you remember I stood up and I called you out.
Yeah.
Okay, can I tell the story?
Go ahead.
So you at this point are mentoring me and you're an idol to me. And I don't have idols. But like everything you say was really important to me, and that you couldn't do the show with me really upset me. But we found a production company and we have the show. So we put the show in the can, we have the pilot. I send it to you.
Oh.
Okay, you texted me back. I can probably find the text. Do you know what you said?
I think I said it's the worst thing I've ever seen.
Nope.
What'd I say?
You said it's a big bucket of shit. You said that is the biggest bucket of shit I've ever seen.
I said that, huh?
You know what I did?
What'd you do?
I said, fuck you, under my breath. And I told my wife, and I said to my wife, I said, Mark Summers said this. My wife was mortified. And I was like, he's got a point. And I worked so hard to impress you. I never
That's
told you
hysterical.
this. I worked so hard but what you did was you took, and I didn't think it was, I thought it was pretty
it's
good.
my vision versus the people who were producing it.
But what it made me do was I took nothing for granted. So if someone was going to say, because what you saw wasn't my
It's not
my
who
show.
you were. They presented you incorrectly. I think you were walking down the beach in a suit. I mean, it was silly stuff like that I would have never done.
So it wasn't my show at that point.
No.
And I felt it, but I thought it was good. I thought the pilot was good, but it wasn't me. And when you said those words to me, I was like, that's it. Everybody's in a headlock until I release you. Everybody is going to, like, I'm not taking crap from anybody.
And you didn't.
I didn't.
And you turned it around.
And we did.
And you made it yours.
108 episodes later.
Yeah. And the other two things, the extreme hotels, and you also did one on luxury hotels. That must have been a ball.
5-star Secrets Extreme Hotels. But I have to shout out to the production company, Atlas Media, Alex and Bruce and everybody that works there. They really, one of the things that Bruce did, as you would imagine, he got a lot of complaints from producers about me. And they're like, just put a camera in front of him, leave him alone.
Let him do his thing.
And he's always going to get you a show. Don't worry about it. Don't put a word in his mouth. Do it, just do the right thing. So anyway, so I have to shut that out. But yeah, so then we did 5-star Secrets, which was we went to 5-star hotels all around the world and we showed you the beauty of the hotels. And what was great about that show was I'm coming off a Hotel Impossible. So nobody wants me in their hotel with their cameras. So Rose Genovese, who gave me a shot, who ran the Langham, she was director of sales at the Langham in Chicago, she said, girl from Brooklyn, she goes, do not F this up. Don't make me look bad. We did a great job. And then all the other 5-star hotels started lining up. And then we did a show called Extreme Hotels, where we went to like the Crane Hotel.
Tell me about a couple of these. These are cool.
Yeah, so we went to a hotel in Amsterdam. I was actually able to bring my daughter, which was great. And we did there's a hotel with 3 rooms in the Crane. A luxury hotel. The guy who owns it's kind of half out of his mind. And people from all over the world came, and they had like a dance floor and a DJ on one of the floors, and it was like this crazy, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas? Well, what happens in the Crane stays in the Crane. Because once the elevator goes up, nobody can ever get back in the Crane. So whatever they did, the debauchery that happened in that Crane, nobody ever knew about. And apparently people with black cards from all over the world would come and whatever. So we did that show. And then we did one in a mine, I think in Sweden, which was really cool. There was a room in a mine in Sweden. And you used to all these crazy extreme hotels. And those shows were the funnest shows because well, first of all, there's a difference. I think you're the best host on television. I've said that to you privately. And there's a difference between presenting and doing a reality show. So I'm really good at Hotel Impossible. Yeah. And I don't think anybody else can do that show better than me. And I'm not afraid to say it. But I'm not the greatest host. I'm not the greatest stand up and present guy. And I had to learn that. And I watched every one of your Unwraps just to watch how you did it. And so it was harder for me. And I think I was good at it.
Yeah, you were.
But anybody could have done those shows. Not everyone could do Hotel Impossible.
I don't think so.
But I don't think anybody can do Hotel Impossible.
No, and I go back to Dick Black, my mentor for a million years. All TV shows are the same until the person says hello. If you like the way they say hello, you'll stick around. If you don't, you won't. You don't stay on television for 10 years if people don't like the way you say hello. So that's been a big success thing.
Well, thank you.
All right. I don't ever promote books, but I'm going to promote your book because you and I are sort of the same person. You support me. I support you. We call each other all the time. You were nice enough when I was playing theater and you came to see me do...
with my family.
Yes, with your family. That's the first time I met them in Long Beach Island, New Jersey. I was playing Vince Fontaine.
Yes. It was great, by the way.
Thank you. So the book is now called what?
Show Up, the 5 Steps of Getting Out of Your Own Way.
What did I want to call it?
Get your head out of your ass?
Yes. Because I think, that would have sold more books.
My wife made me promise not to call
Your wife
that.
said absolutely not, and I get that. I've been married almost 49 years. There's certain things you do and certain things you don't do. But the point of this book is kind of your philosophy and my philosophy of life in so many ways. Mm-hmm. Explain your idea about what the purpose of this book is.
Well, there's 5 words, and I won't go through all the words.
No, go through all the words.
But the biggest word is durability, resilience, creativity. And durability is all the stories we just said. Angle, jumping over the fence to get the linen. You telling me, hey, that's a bucket of shit, and me going, I love you, but F you, I'm going to get this show. I'm going to make it my own, making me better. You made me better that day. So it's about, you don't have to have an aggressive personality. You don't have to be anybody but be yourself. But at the end of the day, nobody cares. No one is coming to your rescue. And, success doesn't come in a box from the UPS office saying, here's a box of success. You earn everything you have. You earn everything you get. And you work your butt off. So these are the 5 words, and these are the things that I do and have done. Sometimes I was writing the book, and I didn't realize I got fired twice until I wrote the book. Because I told somebody to go F themselves because they were rude to me. And again, it's all in the book. I kept my job, but 2 years later, after I made the hotel or the company successful, the bread company I talk about, I made it successful, and then I got laid off 2 years later. And I didn't realize until I was writing, I was like, I didn't get laid off. I got fired because I told him to go F himself because he called me an MF. And I was like, he just called me an MF? And I was like, oh my God. So, but then there's the successes, and the successes are people that believe in your vision. I had someone said to me once, he didn't really like me that much. I know he didn't like me. And he goes, I don't want to work for anybody else but you for the rest of my career. And I said, why? Because I know you're not a big fan. He goes, because I don't know where you're going, but it seems like fun. And that to me is the book. The book is set your dreams, put your dreams in the atmosphere, and the atmosphere will conspire for your success, as Norman Lear once said. And that's what the book is about. The book is about 5 key words and 5 ways of showing up for yourself, not standing up for yourself. And sometimes you stand up, sometimes you show up. And what's the difference? And knowing the difference between standing up for yourself and showing up for yourself, sometimes the difference between success and failure.
As a tease to sell the book, just tell them what the 5 words are.
Okay. Resilience, durability, creativity, and I know the 2 words. You put me on the spot. But it's about the levels of sometimes you have to stand up, sometimes you have to shut up. And somebody once told me that.
And how do you know when those times are is the question.
When you get kicked in the nuts one too many times, you start learning. It's you've told me stories. And I'd be like, and then you'd be like, hey, do you believe this person? I said, do you remember when you basically told this person to go after themselves? Maybe they're holding that against you, Mark. So again, you have to be who you are.
Oh, yeah.
You have to live with the results.
I've burned many bridges.
But you have to live with the results.
Yeah, unbelievably true. But lots of people get, frustrated. I understand why certain people won't talk to me anymore. I had a network recently say to me, "You care too much. You need to care less." And I said, I have no idea
What
how
that
to
means.
do that, okay? There's no point in doing anything if you want to hire me and want me to care less, okay? I'm concerned about the people I work with and who I hire. And, as a boss, and you know this better than me because you've been a boss longer than me, I wasn't just a guy who was producing television shows. I was a psychologist. I was a psychiatrist. I had women breaking up with their husbands and husbands cheating on them. And so I would have women sit in my office on a regular basis just kind of crying their eyes out to me. Yeah, I'm exec producer of these shows, but it's more than that. And you have to have a relationship with people. The other thing is, this is why I don't want to exec produce shows anymore. Everybody's nuts. And, you have to be very careful. I was in a situation recently. How do I tell this story? It was a celebrity who was going to be doing a personal appearance where I was, but she wouldn't get on a plane. And this agent was going to fly out from the East Coast. And I said, why don't you tell her to meet me at the airport and I'll fly her back? And my wife said, under no circumstances are you doing that, because she could say anything that you did to her. And I thought, I don't think like that anymore. I never thought like that ever because I grew up in the business, a long time ago. But you have to be overly cautious, which is why what we do isn't as much fun as it used to be.
Yeah, you know what? And I also think this is me growing up in this industry is everyone is afraid to get fired and everybody has a boss. So I always worked for...
Never been afraid to get fired, ever. Ever.
But that's why you're good at what you do. And so that's what the book talks about. It's like I only worked for the owners. I couldn't work for a vice president because I have a terminal disease called the fuck you disease. And I can't...
Is that an Italian disease? Or?
And so now I'm a lot more professional and a lot more... I wouldn't even say professional. It's like there's no reason to talk that way if you're treating me with respect. And if you're not treating me with respect, I can take you to the side and say, hey, that's just not cool because I'm in a different situation now.
Yeah.
I don't need your job. So to me, people are afraid to get fired. Everybody's got a boss and everybody's kissing somebody's ass. And that's kind of what the book talks about. It's like whatever position you're in, you put yourself in that position. So now if you want to have a different career, it's no one's fault but your own if you don't. But you have to have a certain amount of money and a certain amount of runway to do that. So if you save your pennies, save your money, have 6 months of living expenses, maybe 6 months of cash flow to start your company, and then go. Don't just jump out and then all of a sudden have to jump back in, So to me, it's about, yes, it seems like I make really quick and rash decisions. I've never made a rash decision in my life. But because I have a system and the way I think, I make calculated risks. I always say I will never jump out of an airplane because Mark Summers may have packed my parachute. But I will race cars at 170 miles an hour on the Autobahn like I did in Germany. I will drive a speedboat at 100 miles an hour because I'm in control of it. The second I give somebody else control,
yeah, I'm the same way,
and I smash to the ground, I'm going to be upset that you didn't pack my parachute right. So I'm going to haunt you when I'm dead. So I want to pack my own parachute.
When you thought of jumping off the building, did you write a note?
No, because it wasn't that deliberate. And that wasn't brave enough. It wasn't even like I wanted to kill myself. It was just like, I don't know what I want to do.
So this show always talks about overcoming obstacles. Talk to me about that part of your life. What obstacles have you had to overcome to get where you are?
Well, growing up without a dad, and it wasn't like I was looking for my dad all the time. My mom was strong. My mom was a strong woman. So it wasn't like I was at a ball game or something and said, where's my dad? But I didn't have a lot of direction, a lot of guidance. So my mom was busy. Three kids. No, I had an uncle, but he was younger than me or younger than my older brother. So we were growing up together. No extended family. My father's family is in Italy. I just met them about 10 years ago through Facebook. And I have 100,000 people in Italy that I'm related to. They're wonderful. But no, I had no direction, no guidance. And it was, I was insecure. I was short. I was losing my hair at 17. I had a crooked eye. My eye sometimes slants. And I just didn't feel smart. And, SAT score, if they could have given me 2 numbers instead of 3, they would have. I
always say I owed points at the end.
Yeah. I got
did
left
horrible.
back. I got left back twice.
You did?
Yeah, twice. First grade and 12th grade. First grade because I just don't know my ABCs. I was in the hospital with asthma a lot. In 12th grade because I had a moose head label on my head and I was drunk and I couldn't pass an English test. So I was 37 years old before I graduated high school, right?
Wow.
So when I went in the military, I was already 20 years old, and my friends were already in college. And I was like, when I got out, I have to have hotel experience, I have to have a bachelor's degree, and I have to have military experience, which I did. At 25 years old, I won almost every award they gave out in the military. I had a bachelor's degree. I did well, and I had a really good career in the military. And I worked really, really hard. So the Air Force gave me structure. Just tell me what to do. Just tell me what to do and I'll do it. And that became an obsession because when they told me what to do, I didn't realize there was other people around me because I have a career, I have a job to do. I remember Colonel was getting on the plane and he was walking down the hallway onto the tarmac and he didn't like the hallway leading out to the tarmac. And he turned to me and he goes, "Tony, one day we gotta fix all this. This is no good." He was gone 2 days. He came back to a whole new hallway. Fixed, right? Whole new hallway. And what I did was I used his name. Because I can't get stuff done because I'm only an airman or a sergeant at the time.
But you knew how to do that. See, you're always 3 steps ahead of the next person. So you like fast things. Have you ever done the Indy two-seater deal?
No, I actually raced around Indianapolis 500 in my own car.
You did?
Yeah, we rented. I did a training session, and
oh my God,
Daytona, not Indianapolis, Daytona, Poconos, and Hempstead.
Can you do Indy? I wonder if you can.
I don't know. I did
the 2-seater, and that scared the living hell out of me.
Yeah, so, see, I wouldn't do that because
you weren't in control. But I had a professional race driver who was in the race a million times drive me around.
It was not fun to me.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's not fun to me.
And the other thing that you love more than life itself is Vegas. What is it about Las Vegas that you love?
Okay.
You love poker.
When I travel,
yeah,
I do my job and I go back to my hotel room. I don't like being in my hotel room. So
what?
I don't I like being in my hotel room when I have a couple of hours or whatever. But if I'm going to be there for like 5 days,
yeah, you don't want to sit there.
And I'm not going to go out. I'm not going out to the strip bars and stuff like that. So I really found a love for poker, but I don't like playing cash because I can't drop $1,000 every time I'm playing poker.
Yeah.
So I go into $100 to $200 games, tournaments. So I can sit there for 12 hours with $200 and win the tournament. If you look at me on Hendon Poker online, you'll see how I've done in tournaments the last few years.
What's the most money you've won?
$8,000 in Spain.
Nice.
Yeah,
Spain?
I went to Spain for Porcelanosa, a company I worked for, and I had a day, and there was this beautiful casino around the corner. I was the only American in there. There was like 200 people in the tournament, and I won the whole thing.
Wow. That must have been a major...
Yeah, and it's so, I just like competition.
Yeah.
And I just jones for that competition. So cash doesn't do anything for me. I don't want to lose money. If I lose $200 in a poker tournament, if I went to dinner by myself, it's going to cost me $200.
Yeah.
So to me, it's not. I'm not a gambler. I don't gamble, but I like playing poker. And
that's gambling.
But to me, if I go to dinner and spend $200, I play poker. It's not gambling because I'm not gambling my money. Instead, I'm having a protein bar and I'm spending $200 on.
That's why, I play silly games in Vegas as well. But to me, where can you have that much fun? For 3 or 4 hours, and whether I win or lose, I always take $300 in. If I lose it, I walk away. But sometimes you can sit there for 6-7 hours. And
I just want 8 hours where I don't have to go to my hotel room, and I just play. And there's a kind of community when you play poker, and I've played in almost every state. Every time matter of fact, I was here 5 days. I played poker once. I went to the Commerce.
Did you go there?
Yeah, it's the biggest poker room.
They have people there who really know what the hell they're doing, though.
They cannot all know
screw
what the
around.
hell they're doing.
Yeah, especially the women.
So I came in 9th out of 150 people.
Really?
I won no money, but it was fun. It was fun. And I got out of there at 1 o'clock in the morning or whatever, and it was fun. And what you learn is every state's culture in the poker room is different. You go to Texas, leave your credit cards and your ATM card at home because they will take all your money.
Really?
You play in a $1, $2 ante game, before you know it's $1,000 cash game. It's insanity.
So you got to learn the rules.
It's
each place.
insanity. You don't play poker in Texas if you don't want to lose money.
My best day in a casino, I was giving a speech at the Orleans Hotel in Vegas.
I know as well.
You know it well, okay? And so we did the first rehearsal, and then we had an hour in between. So I went downstairs and played the penny slots. I won $10,000
On penny slots?
on the penny
Wow.
slot. I didn't even realize what was happening. And all of a sudden, this lady next to me says, "You won!" And I looked, and the thing just kept blowing up. And finally, somebody came over, and they give you the money. But
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was $10,000 on a penny slots. I was like, that's the most insane thing.
Now that casino is a very local casino.
Yes.
They have the best, I think, the best tournament in the country. On Sundays, I happen to be there on a Sunday, maybe 4 months ago, and I'm never anywhere on a Sunday. I'm always home. But the chief sales officer, the Venetian, invited me to the Raiders game. So it was, remember when that Monday Night Football, that guy got hurt?
Yes.
So they had to change all the games. So the Sunday game, okay, I was going to come in Sunday morning. Anyway, they changed it to Saturday, so I came in Friday night. So I was there on Sunday, and I had nothing to do. So somebody told me the best tournament is $200 tournament.
At the Orleans?
At the Orleans.
Oh, my.
You know how much you can win?
How much?
$19,000, $20,000.
Really?
So I was like, I'm going to join. So I didn't do well, but some guy noticed me and started talking to me and threw me off my game.
That's all it takes. What have you not accomplished that you would love to do?
Being a better person.
Really?
I'm a good person.
Yeah, you are. Got 3 lovely daughters.
But I'm not as good. I think you can always be better. And I think as I get older, early in my career, I used people's tools in the toolbox. And then I started to realize the reason I'm successful is because of people around me. So I don't do that anymore. But I think my search is just being kinder and nicer. And when somebody's talking to you, really listen and don't listen to just get what you want out of it. So, I'm spiritual. I go to church. I talk to God. To me, just really being better. I just want to be better.
That's cool.
That's it.
What a great way to end this conversation.
Thank you.
Marc Summers Unwraps is a production of Believe Limited, created by me, Marc Summers, and Jessica Richmond. Produced by Keith Korneluk and Jessica Richmond. Executive produced by Patrick James Lynch and Ryan Gielen. Post-production support from Joshua Sterling Bragg and Believe Limited. Don't forget to subscribe or follow the show on your favorite podcast player. And if you really love it, why don't you leave us a rating and a review? Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Marc Summers Unwraps.